Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the stages of life, and maybe along the way you'll be able to find out in which category you belong. I'm actually going to use two frameworks about the stages of life, and the first one actually has 3 levels and the second one has 4 levels. So I'm just going to build on those and maybe you'll find where you lie. So the first framework I'm going to look at is the one that actually has 3 stages, and the first stage is dependent. So the dependent mode is someone is taking care of you, literally. So imagine as a child, your parents take care of you. Depending on circumstances, someone actually takes care of you as a child, and you're dependent for all your needs on that person. Could be your mom, could be your dad, could be a foster parent, whatever it is. Someone is taking care of your initial needs. You need some money, but maybe taking it a little bit lower. There's parents that breastfeed their kids for like 2 years. I've seen that happen. Then there's those who do 6 months or even 3. So the dependency of a child on the parent for their feeding needs can vary from one person to the other. So do you say it's wrong in one aspect and it's not wrong in another aspect? That's a different discussion. But anyway, at the end of it all is, don't be in the dependent mode for too long. So I've seen 50 Cent, I think between 13 and 15 he became dependent, I think at 13, and decided to fend for himself at 13. I was dependent at 13. Imagine that. And it took me much even longer to be independent, which is the next one. Phase 2 is the part now where you're independent. And in that phase we are looking out for ourselves mainly, and that is the phase where it's me, my this, my car, my job, my me. It's basically just about you. And in that phase it's the time you're trying to discover yourself. Because in the dependent phase mainly you're programmed by your environment, and then in the independent phase you're trying to find yourself. Now that phase can really take a lot of time, and depending on the person, independent can actually, it lasts for quite a while. I think the majority of us will be in the independent mode for a longer while, very, very long while. And just like I said, don't stay stuck in one mode for too long, okay? Now let's look at phase 3. Phase 3 is the interdependent stage. So interdependent is you've gone beyond yourself, because in the independent phase you're actually taking responsibility for all your actions. In the interdependent phase now it's us. All decisions are made not in isolation of yourself. You're out of the me phase, you're in the us phase. Usually that means that you have family. You cannot only spend money for just your needs. You usually have to consult someone. Okay, yeah, you have to consult someone for most of the things you do. I've seen people, before you were going out on your own, and now you're in the interdependent phase and you have to ask for permission. Anyway, I'm laughing because I'm not yet in that phase. I'm still in the independent phase. So I can imagine if I'm actually supposed to ask for permission to do stuff, that would be weird. But I think part of life is change, so you have to get to that point where you live in that phase. So it's the us phase, it's family, it's your wife, it's a couple of other things. I hope everybody gets to that point where they're in the interdependent phase, and this is the first structure you're looking at. The general rule is we have so many aspects of our lives, and depending on the phase of life you're looking at, you could be at any of these stages depending on what you're talking about. So let's say I have a goal. I want to start working out, and most of us know to get results, maybe you should get someone to run you through the drills, because it's not your specialty. So you'll be dependent on your coach for a while, okay? He's gonna give you the runs, all the instruction, and then before you know it, guess what? You can do it by yourself. So you go to the gym by yourself. You know your routine, and you just do it by yourself. So you don't need extra help. And then is you reach in the point where the interdependent phase, and that's where you can say, guess what? I can actually help someone else to get to their goals for health, for example. Yeah, that's the way I'm looking at it right now. And health is just a very simple one, but there's also just knowing within yourself in what stage of life you are on a general phase. You can actually be in any of them on a general phase, depending on how you assess yourself. So that's a good formula. So this one has three: dependent, independent, and interdependent. So which stage are you at? We're still looking at the stages of life, and now we're looking at the model actually has four stages. And I saw this, in a post by Mark Manson, the one who wrote The Sad Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Really? Yeah, that's a good title, right? But I think his books are titled like that normally, so it's not my fault. That's the title of the book. So if you like the book, maybe I can leave a link in the description if you want to make a purchase. Or I know there's the guys who want the free ones. I'm not helping this time. But anyway, so in this model, the first phase is mimicry. It looks like mimicry, but it's mimicry. Okay, so in this stage is it's early on in life, and the mimicry part is we keep on copying things around us. So you learn by copying. So you see someone walking, and then you copy the walk, and that's how you start walking. So mimicry is the first one. Mimicry. Am I wrong to say mimicry? But anyway, it's mimicry. So that's how we learn. We learn by copying each other, and that's that stage. So you talk using the same philosophy, copy. Okay, and I saw actually a research that said where they're talking about when a child is learning how to talk, they voice all sounds. That's why it sounds gibberish, but it's like they're practicing before they narrow down to the few things we say as our language. Otherwise, a child goes and pronounces every word. I think we keep on part of vocabulary is to shrink down to what we speak as language. That was an interesting fact. Yeah, my mind just went overboard, but I think it was good information though. Stage 2 of this model is exploration, and the exploration is in this phase you're looking out for your own identity, and you keep on experimenting things. This is the phase where you have no stability at all, and you're trying to differentiate, to make a separation of yourself from everybody else. So it's exploration, experimenting, trying things. If you're dating, you're wondering what do you really like. So I think if that's how you find a person. You date once or twice, and maybe one day you figure out what you really want. So exploration phase is one, and I can imagine you can actually but I think you explore so many things along the way, because I don't think there's finality to so many things. The good thing about exploration is eventually you find your place with something, and then you find, for example, if a person likes to go out in the exploration phase, ask a person, what do you drink? They'll drink everything, because guess what, they'll say, if it has alcohol, I'll actually have it. Then along the way someone's like, no, I don't do whiskey, maybe I do wine. Yeah, wine lovers out there. Yeah, but then eventually you just reach a point where you know what works for you, and that's a very good stage to go through. Otherwise, the biggest bumps a person is going to get is in the stage of exploration. But guess what, life is about exploring, so there's nothing like perfection. You're supposed to hit your head a couple of times before you get to some finality on a couple of things as well. So explore on. Okay, stage 3 of this model is commitment. In this stage is where a person decides to stop exploring, narrow down their options, and says, this is what I want, They give up the opportunity to explore and commit their time and energy to things in this time. And most of it is basically to optimize your results. You've played around much, so that's how a person says, you know what, this is the career I'm going to run through. Although I know eventually sometimes people change careers, but for a while sometimes you just have to narrow your focus and do certain things for a while. Okay, so you've done exploring. Right now you're saying, guess what, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to run for. And in this period is where you find out, this is like, you know who you are. You're very confident with yourself, and you organize the life around you using your value system. So everything is kind of clear, and everything around you design, so you choose where you're gonna stay. Okay, this is like permanent stuff. Okay, and that is the commitment phase. You just commit to a certain couple of things. You commit to a spouse. I guess marriage happens in this commitment phase, although I see the disparity. I think some people commit not once, not twice. They commit a couple of times in their lifetimes. But I think that's a discussion for another day, okay? Commitment is just a phase, okay? All right. Phase 4 of this model is the legacy phase. Legacy. Most of us know. You can actually check for legacy in the dictionary, but most of it is now inclining on what you're gonna leave behind when you pass on, right? Because you're doing things now that actually will outlive you. So this is just a phase where it's preservation of what you've done in your life. Okay, so most of the things you want them to outlive you, and that's the legacy phase. Yeah, I think this is actually emotional. The good thing is, the funny thing about legacy is it's a compound effect. Most of the things we do in earlier stages is what becomes a legacy. So you can actually not make very many decisions in the previous 3 stages that take no considerations for what legacy will be. Sometimes you find the results in the legacy phase is the aftermath of things that actually have happened in the commitment phase most of the time. Most part of commitment phase and in the exploration phase. So that's what I'm looking at as like a drill down of it. And one funny thing I've seen about this model is, which is very interesting, is you're gonna have people around you in different phases of life, and we as creatures of habit, we're creatures who, let's say I have a friend who is in the exploration phase and I'm moving on to commitment. For some reason we try to keep each other so that we stay in the same phase. So imagine you have a friend who has decided to commit to a couple of things in their life, and then you're still in the exploration phase. So you find that the person who's moved on into commitment has difficulty maintaining relationships they have with people because they are in a different stage of life, but then that's who their friends are. So along the way you find that a person's move from one stage to the other can cause you to leave a couple of people behind. But I say that, guess what, if a person is not at the phase of life you are in, I say, why don't you find people in the same stage so that you can actually help each other? They can actually build you in that phase so you can be better. I think it's a good way. It's a good perspective. So when I hear people saying that, guess what, you can't have the same friends all the time, I think part of it is because we progress in life, and sometimes you just leave your friends behind, or you are left behind. Yeah. So that's deep, right? That's how you find your friends married, and you don't get the conversations you have because you're telling them, you know what, we're gonna turn up somewhere, turn up. Yeah, but that's something. Anyway, I hope you got some value from this. You know the models. I don't know, I think I like the second model better, the Mark Manson one. The first one is kind of very generic. The second one is a kind of deeper for me, and yeah, I got a couple of moments in there. So for whichever aspect, maybe you can comment down below and see which stage of life are you generally at. And I would like to give big hands for those of you who are in the legacy phase. I'm not yet in the legacy phase, but I hope if I live long enough to get into legacy phase. Or do things now to be in the legacy phase. Already started when I'm in the legacy phase. I made a couple of good decisions so that it's legacy too. I was looking at a documentary for Tupac Shakur. Tupac died at 25 years old. But guess what? He has left a footprint that we still listen to. Messages, most of the things he said in his exploration mode look like legacy things, right? So I see a kind of confluence, because the decision making in those earlier stages can actually be a legacy. So maybe you have a legacy somewhere, maybe you don't. But yeah, it's a good thing to know that there is hope for those who are scared that actually they won't reach the legacy mode. Yeah, I hope you got some value from this. Comment below, subscribe to the channel, put the bell icon on if you want notifications, and I'll see you on the next one. Adios.